So here we are back with another segment of the CT70. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. We're doing the guide coat sanding. And as you can see, where it's nice and shiny and gray and no black spots, it's perfectly flat. Even if you go through a little bit to the paint, you're good. It's looking good. Everything's filled till you get here. I'm going to continue to sand. There's a lot more primer on here to sand off, but I would assume that these deep gouges are going to probably need another 3 or 4 rounds of primer. I could fill, and I might just fill those and see what happens. But the plastic, I just don't know. So that's what we're working on right now. We're going to color sand, or not color sand, but we're going to sand the guide coat off of the forks, which that's just going to go easy. That's going to be one sanding and it'll be ready for paint. And same with the frame. And some of the other pieces I think are just going to be, just basically just sand the black guide coat off and it'll be flat, ready to paint. This is really the only hang up, and I've got to address that right now. I just continue to be amazed at the high build primer and what it can do. I can't believe this was just the one sanding. And there's a little area here where the plastic has come through a little bit, but that's fine. All those gouges and all that uneven area is all gone, and I didn't have to put on a second or third set of coats. I probably put on 4 or 5 pretty medium wet coats, so it was on there. But this is going to spray up so nice. So this is really good news. So I've got all these sanded, and there's some areas where I'm going to, just for safety's sake, I'm going to hit it with a light coat of self-etching primer right before I paint. And that takes about, 10 minutes to dry or so before you put a base coat on, so it's no big deal. And now I'm starting on the frame. So I thought this was a good time to kind of just show you what the guide coat does. You can see how uneven that is. You can even see a grinding mark here and a line there. And as you keep sanding with the block, and I'm using a wet block, and it's one of these dual-sided soft blocks, SB1. Works really good, to get the contours. So you just keep sanding until it's all gray and shiny. And then it's absolutely smooth and straight and no low spots. This right here probably will be low, and I'll just get in there with my finger after I've got this with the block. And I'm going to focus on mainly all this area here, the main part of the frame where you see. All up in here I'll just do by hand, and I'll get it as gray as I can. I don't want to burn through to the metal. This isn't expected to be perfect. You've got weld marks and so forth. As a matter of fact, stock is going to have these little weld marks here on them also. So you wouldn't want to fill these holes because these are all stock. You see it now? So, like this little welding mark here, and that sort of thing. And just clean it up, get it flat, and onto the paint. It is really taking shape. It's all sanded down. All the guide coat is off. And there's places you can't get to, and it's not really going to make any difference. The shock hides that, and even these little speckles of guide coat that you see right here, they're just not going to show up, especially underneath there. but where you want to make sure everything's super smooth is right here on the area that your eye will see. So this is a hidden area right here. And as you can see, the tape is going to hold the filler I'm going to put in here to fill up these rust holes. So I'm going to mix up some JB Weld and I'm going to put that in there, let that sit up over. All right, today may be paint day, but I don't know. A little something's happened overnight. Oh my goodness. There's a little snow out here. Well, I guess it's a good day to paint, but I wanted to show you some of the other projects that just may just not get done today. Look at those bikes. Oh my gosh, I've never seen them sticking snow. That's over a foot of snow. God knows how much fell off of them. So today's paint day. We're getting ready to paint. So I wipe it down with this grease and oil remover that I've always used. And get anything that might be of any oil sort of situation or fingerprints off of it. And I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to test this and see if this is going to make any difference. It's right underneath. You're not going to see it. The seat's going to be over it. And it's just a test spot. There's a few other ones, just kind of where it burnt through a little. I don't know if you can see it on this or not. Maybe in there a little, you can see a little line. You know, just see if it lifts a little. I mean, I'm just always trying to figure out how far you really have to go for a good paint job. Do I need to spot prime this before and here? And you can see it's a little shiny right along there on that ridge. So we're going to see. And you can see it there. So let's see what happens. So we're going to mix. There's no mixing. This is the VMR base coat, and the mixing ratio is 1, which means it's ready to spray. So let's get that in the gun. And I've got them hung here with 2 different lengths. So once I get the underside, I'm going to use that longer length. You just use whatever you can use, so I'm not going to get too detailed in that. But what I wanted to show you is that there was wind. The wind and the snow out there is so bad that it was blowing. Even with the fans, I could feel a gust here or there. So I had to cover up half the window there. And now I'm not getting any disturbance. So we're good to go. So first is the base coat. So this is the ruby red. Now we got to put some clear on it. And it looks a little bit more orange in here as far as on the camera, but it is the ruby red. It's beautiful. It's going to look awesome. And there it is with 1 coat of clear on it. We're going to get this next coat on, and I'm going to leave it at that because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the stripes or decals. You know, if I'm not sure if I'm just going to go over the paint, because that's really how I believe OEM was, just over the paint. Just stuck to the paint. And if it is, then I'll leave it at the 2 coats. And then if it's not, then I'll lightly sand it, and then I'll clear over just the frame. And there it is. Now we're just gonna, we just need to walk away. Just walk away from her. Don't try to do anything. Just let them set up. Let that clear set up. Takes about, I don't know, about an hour before you could actually figure you can turn the fans off. Any dust that lays on them is just going to be dust. Probably 2 hours. It's probably going to take about 2 hours. And then we should be good. Dust free. So we'll just walk away, and the next step is to start assembling some of the parts, or well, I actually don't know. We'll just see what's next. All right, I'm waiting for that paint to dry, and while I'm doing that, I pulled this in out of the snow, and I'm gonna try and pull these bars and see if they're bent at all. If they are, they're gonna look good. They're much better than the others. So that's the first thing. And then I might just take some of the pieces off of this bent frame here. So there's not much you're going to be able to do with this one, but it's the right color, the right year. I don't know. You never know. But look how twisted those forks are. There's a little twist there. So just get those handlebars off. Go. Well, they've been sitting here. It's going on, well, I guess it's just one day, but it's a day and a half, because it's nighttime here on the following day. So what I wanted to do is, there were some areas that I was testing to see if there was going to be any issues with a little bit of the metal showing through the primer. And it looks like there's absolutely none. Now, some of my paint jobs, I've actually seen some like lifting or wrinkling in different places, but I never really, documented where a little bit of the metal showing through, and, to determine whether it was metal or whether it was just, some reaction to maybe one of the primer coats or something. But there's no lifting at all there. And then I think there was some in here. I'm not sure. Down in here. Now I know that there was definitely some on this swing arm, and there is no lifting at all. And this was the side, I believe, that had some showing metal, some exposed metal. Not a big spot, but this actually had more exposed metal than the frame did. And then probably the worst was the top of this chain guard. And let me see, without dropping it, which would be terrible. Now it's a little rough on top, but it's not because of the metal. And I think that was, most of it was right in here. So no, it's not lifting, it's not reacting. One of the guys at the paint shop, he said, if you're sanding the metal with some, 320, you're roughing it up. You should prime bigger spots, but little spots that bleed through, he said not to really worry about it. So let's move on to the wheels. So on to the wheels and the hubs. And as you remember, this bearing was not tight. It was snug. Maybe it spun here and there. There's a little bit of a ridge. I mean, this ridge would be typical of a 200,000 mile cylinder. You know, not a whole lot, maybe, well, anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm roughing up the inside. I'm taking a punch and I'm going to do this a lot more, but I'm just showing you here that I'm roughing up the surface, and I might even put a little bit of JB Weld, just a spot here and here to make sure that the bearing seats, but that you could still get it out. And I've got the wheel, the brand new wheels, tires, brand new tube, plated bolts. So that's all ready to go. So let's get the bearings in and try and put this rear hub together. Got the bearing, and one side has a seal and one that doesn't. Now I'm pretty sure, well, I know the seal goes on the outside. I've got a socket, and it looks to me like it's, you know, hitting this area here that's unaffected. So we're just going to drive it in. All right, it didn't take much. That was the perfect size socket. And after it got into the area where it was worn, it still had resistance. So I'm okay. I'm liking it. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm not going to put any JB Weld. I was thinking about putting a dab somewhere here or there, but no, I think this is just perfect. All right, for the other bearing, I'm cleaning this one up, and it spins freely. I've got the cover, so I'm going to repack this bearing and put the shim in down in the hole, and I'm going to put a little grease down around this, and I'm going to pack a little grease around here before I put this in, and just make sure it's nice. And you don't need to fill this whole hub with grease, but you just want a little grease around here and around the outside surface, so the bearing grease that you pack in here, you know, it doesn't just fall away and leave you with almost nothing. So let's get on to that. And once again, make sure you got the shim in. I don't know how many times I put set of bearings in and not put that shim in. And I'm also, before I drive this in, I'm going to look at the schematic and I'm going to make sure that I'm not missing something else. All right, so I've got the bearing in this side, the bearing in this side, and the seal. And so let's keep moving. I got the rubbers installed, the little rubber grommets there. And then I've got the clip, a brand new plastic. We've got the plastic ring. Sprocket, and we'll put the clip on, and there it is. It took some pressing. I really had to push on this. I got my largest socket and I couldn't get it around that to push that clip on, so I just had to really hold this in and get that clip to start. But it's on. Everything looks beautiful. All right, now I built the other wheel, the other rim, got that all set up, and I'm running into a problem. The speedometer drive, you can see it down there, it's got the little gears on it. Well, it was so rusted out and broken up that inside where the speedometer cable goes, the little pin is broken off. So I had another hub. I pulled it apart. It was in worse condition. So I'm going to have to buy one of these, because although there's a set screw and this can come out, I don't know how I'm going to get it out. I'm going to look into that. I might be able to get it out and get one, but it might just be easier just to buy one of these used and then just, freshen it up. So I'm going to move on to the shocks and the steering stem bearings, the front shocks. Try and get this as close to a roller as I can while I'm waiting for that front hub to come in. And once again, these little rubber snubbers, there's little rubber snubbers in here. And you can see them on the parts fish. Now they're connected on this one. But over here, you can see they're both laying right in here. So they're broken off of these aluminum pieces, this whole piece here. And the spring threads onto there, and I looked at a couple of videos, and it's pretty easy how to get it off. Although it looked difficult, and I tried it a couple of different ways myself before I actually looked it up. So you just take a punch, and you just find the spring right where that spring ends, and then just pop it, and it'll start to unthread, and it doesn't take much. Now, threading them back, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do that, but we'll see. And it doesn't take much. And then there it is. And then you just unthread it off of the aluminum piece. And there it is. And that's where the snubber goes. Let's see if I can get him out of there. Who knows, I might not even be able to get him out without taking the other side apart. Now, I don't know whether there's a top or a bottom to this spring. Now that it's out, I can clean all these parts individually. So I'm going to take off the other side. I can see, maybe there's a reverse thread and a forward thread, and who knows. So that, just screws back on, I guess. I guess I'm going to, that's about what I'll do right there. Yeah, so screwing it on is easy. Taking it off just requires the punch. So let's get it off again. And there we go. All right, so I've got it off. Both sides came off pretty easy. And I just need to get a screwdriver and push these little rubber pieces out. And just pop them out. There it is. So that's the little rubber snubber, and it basically goes on the end of this, like so. And I guess that's a bottoming, when this spring goes all the way together, it's going to bottom on these two rubber bumpers. And I've got 4 new ones. Takes 2 aside. So let's clean up the parts and put this back together. All right, it's been about a day and a half, 2 days. I got the new rubber bumpers. And I went ahead and I got the extra brand new sliders. Now, just because this has a crack in it, probably isn't going to mean that much, but why not? So I did take this to the wire wheel, and I got all the chrome rust, or all the rust off the chrome here. Now, this wouldn't be difficult to get plated. It would just get expensive. And this is not a sealing sort of situation, so I don't have to. This is what it looked like before. And then this is what it looked like after, and I can live with that. And the nice thing about these bikes is they really can be pulled apart quickly. I'm doing as much as I can to bring it to a concourse sort of situation with the paint and all the nuts and bolts being OEM, things like that. But the few things that are not, someone could later on make this bike 100%. Not that it isn't now, it's just not something that's going to win, the concourse thing. So there's our rubbers. We're going to take this and wire wheel it like we did here. And then I'm going to bring it back and show you it polished. All right, you can see I polished with the black polish, which is the most abrasive on the polishing wheel. And you can see the lines from the wire wheel that dug into the aluminum. So I polished a little harder here, and it all came out. But I didn't like the way I had to really grind on that, or super hard pressure on there. It got it out, it smoothed it out. But then I went around here to the corroded side and I just polished without anything. Now the only, and I like that. That looks good. Okay, I definitely like that. I can live with that. And compared to that, right? And then that. So the last experiment is going to be doing the sandpaper routine on the rest of this, and then the polishing, just like I do all my side cases, all that sort of stuff. And we'll see which is the nicest finish. All right, there's the corroded part. And then this is the part I sanded with 500 grit. Now I'm going to take it out and polish it and see how it stacks up to the other methods. And this is the fun part of it all. Okay, so this is the original corroded look. It's actually a little better because I think I kind of hit it a hair with the buffer. And then this rough edge here is after I wire wheeled, and then I polished, and it was fairly deep grinding troughs in there. And see if I can get it to focus again. There it is, polished out pretty good. Now I could probably get it even flatter. I'm sure I could get that even flatter. And then this is the sanded part, or this is just the polished after the wire wheel. And then there's a little bit of just polished. And that right there, this right here is the sandpaper. Look at that. I mean, definitely the sandpaper method, 500 grit is what I used. I mean, you can use 1,000, you can use whatever. I like a little bit of lines, sanding lines still in it. It almost looks like it's still like a factory fresh part with a little bit of machining marks still in it, even though it's polished. So I'm going to do this whole cap here, all with the sandpaper and then the polish. And there they are, ready to go. And we'll open up these, get one of these out, one of these. So I've got the seal in there, and I've got the the back of the seal where you've got the big channel, and the front, because what we're trying to do is keep all of the grease up in the springs and everything that's inside of the fork tube. And I'm going to use a spark plug. Just get that in there. I think you can see underneath here where it's actually, and you can, if you look in there, you can see where the seal is buried up against the lip, so it's in there. Next, we'll put the rubber boot on. This is the left side. The left side's got this for the brake. Just put that all the way down there. And this goes on. Yeah, kind of figured that might be what would happen. Doesn't sit in there too strong. but it's not, like I said, it's not a seal that is holding fork oil. It's just keeping grease up in there. I got a better one that fits. It's a 22, fits in there. So, and this seal is going to be held in place once we thread this into the fork. So we'll push this down a little ways. Hopefully the seal just, no, it's not going to stay. So it'll all go together when we thread it all up. And then the plastic tube here, and the small, you can see this section smaller than that. It's showing that it goes there and kind of presses on that seal. Get that down in there. So I'm going to have to clean up this little bit here. It's just a little bit of a burr. It's keeping this from sliding on nicely. There it is. That's in there pretty good. Get that lined up. There's a hole where our pen's going to go through. And next, what we actually have to do is assemble this piece here with the new rubber ends. And it goes on pretty easy. We've got the new rubber end. Just kind of push it till that little spring kind of goes into a little groove there, and then just twist it on. Get it about there. And that's it. Okay, a couple things. First of all, I believe this only goes in one way because the hole lines up really straight one way, but if you pull it out and put it back in reverse, it's off. The pen will go through one side, but it won't go through the other. And I think that's purposeful. So what you want to do is you're going to have to align this pen. This is the part that goes to the top of the fork that it'll slide into a slot in the top of that fork tube over there. And you want this piece to line up with this weep hole. And this is the inside or whatever, but this is the hole that any moisture or water that gets in to this leg can drain out of. This and this you want to line up. And if this spring is not really snug on these pieces, then this will be basically off. It could be 180 out, and you'll try to put this in the other way and the pen won't go in. So just fiddle with it. It's a lot of fiddling, like they do in Shingletown. And so I got it started. Nice. We just got a little bit more to do. And I'll get my punch. And just use whatever you've got handy. You just need to get it a little bit further in. Of course, that's going to spread it out. Yeah, a lot of fiddling. There we go. Now that is a little bit inset, and that's a little bit inset. So there we are. That's together. Now I put this rubber on before I put this pin in. I didn't show you that. So there we are. Now the next step is going to be putting the grease all over these springs and the slide and so forth. Okay, first of all, I'm going to use some cheapo grease that I've got laying around, because this is not a big deal. Okay, I'm going to save my Maxima, my nice Maxima grease, for another, more important job. But I did test fit this in the fork leg, and as you can see, it's lined up with the brake hub here. And then if you look in here, you've got that little nub right there. Push it up, it centers itself, and then the bolt goes in there. Then what you're going to do is probably push down a little and start to thread See if you can see that here. Right there, you're going to push this down and start the threading process. But I'm going to grease it up first, and then we'll screw it on to these beautiful fork legs. And there's the grease on there. Look at that, it's almost a dead match to that paint. Okay, so I got the shocks on it. Now it's time to get the steering head put in here. So let's get everything, get all the ball bearings. We got new ball bearings. The bottom ball bearings are fine. I cleaned them all up, they're beautiful. And I'm going to pull them out. But the top ball bearings were the rust. A number of them are rusted, so I just ordered a whole set of new ones. They were, oh, just another 20 bucks, you know, 20, 25 bucks. So let's get this part up here going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this with grease, and I'm going to pop all the balls in it. Or I'll put them in the bottom, just depends, but grease both ends. Line up the ball bearings and we'll put it in. So 21 ball bearings in here, and then I bury it in oil, or grease, excuse me. So I put a little grease on the race, throw the ball bearings in there, and then cover it with the grease. And I'm going to do the same down here. So I've got everything pretty much ready. All the new pieces, all of the old pieces. So now we put all the ball bearings all in there. It's all lubed up. Put that in just like so. Hold it there. Then the next one, the ball bearings are all in the top. We put the top race on. That sets it. And then the brand new cap. And of course, I'm going to have to use a spanner wrench on this. There we go. Okay. And draw it all the way down. So what I've done is I took 1000 grit sandpaper and I tried to take off as much corrosion and smooth over maybe some gouges, different things. And I took the wire wheel to this top surface here and these deep grooves. I didn't want to get that on any of the surface. So I got the grooves cleaned out with the large wire wheel. Then I took the Dremel with the small wire wheel. As you can see, quite a few of the bristles are off. And then I got in here with that. Look how clean those threads are. Got inside here, in here, and then I ran it into the hole. And it just happened to be the perfect size. And they're just shiny. So the bars will fit in there very nice. Those are always super corroded inside. You know, it's like a battle. Probably a little anti-seize would be a good idea to put in here. So now that the corrosion's off, it's time to take it out and actually polish it. And then there it is, polished. Replated, polished. That's chrome, by the way. So we're ready to put this on top. So all the forks are on, and the top bracket's on. So we're getting to the point where I'm going to be going back and forth between different things as I'm either waiting for something, or I find that, like for instance, these bars, I'm just not going to deal with these bars. I could make them look okay, and I may end up making them look okay, but for now, I'm not. So I basically am going to end this video right here. The short attention span of those in Shingletown kind of demand that I don't go too far. But in reality, what it is I get so tied up in these videos, and I've actually even let one video go to where it was like 2 gigabytes on my phone, or 1 gigabyte, because I didn't turn it off after I filmed. And just the longer I go, the harder they are to keep everything straight. So, and I apologize, in the other the video prior to this, the beginning of the video was at the end. The little clip at the end was basically the beginning of that video. So I'm going to do a little shorter and keep it a little bit more accurate. But as you can see, we are definitely making some big progress here. And I called today, and the cases should be coming here very soon. And same with my hub. So I can't really make this a roller until I get my new front brake hub. And that should be coming today. So until the next video, Joe and 2-Ton Ted, or whatever you call them, and One-Eyed Jerry, you guys just hang in there. This one's going to get done. See you on the next video.